Howdy, folks. Welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And today is Sunday. Sunday. It is Sunday, right? Yeah. Got
Definitely.
Mr. Rick Yorkin finally with us. And of course, Mr. Kent Nichols. How you two fellers doing?
I'm doing excellent. Yeah.
Doing well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. I know that Rick is actually, um he's a leader actually for what the cause of what I would call the natural that's left on this planet and or this plane or whatever. But we're all the leaders, and I saw a little thing that Rick was talking about last night, and he couldn't hit it more on the head when he says that we are the leaders. We do have to take the forefront, and I mean, obviously, the world out there right now is really bizarre, and people have really fallen for this spell or this illusion. And I'll get into it a little bit after, but I'm definitely pleased to be here with Rick. I've never met him, just like you, Brian, but he is a friend. He's a brother out there, and I'm proud that there's some people like Rick and like yourself and like some of the other people that come on this show.
I mean, another reason I wanted to bring Rick on.
Thank you.
Number one, I like his insight. And one thing, we have totally different opinions on things. And that was another reason I wanted to bring him on, because even though we all three have way different opinions, we have a lot of similarities as well. And I just want to be able to highlight that, because, a lot of people are focusing on all the differences in the world when we should be really coming together with what ties us together. We're all human. So, Mr. Rick, go ahead, buddy.
Well, concerning the differences, I mean, to address the differences, you have to experience them, and what I do, and especially with you, because I respect your opinion. You're one of the more intelligent people and intuitive people online. I want to see what you think about this stuff. What makes you think what you think about it? Like, because this is what I think about it, And if you say, something that could correct me and lead me down the path of more discovery, that's what I'm doing it for. And I'll actually seek people out sometimes that I do have differences with, because everybody doesn't want to be playing the same note on the same instrument, and you need that. You need to have some dissonance to find the harmonics after a while.
Well, even though I discuss a lot of my thoughts and opinions on here, I'm still open to whatever, and that's why I like listening to all these different aspects, because I definitely don't have it figured out. And so even if it might be the craziest idea out there, I guarantee you can learn something in it. And there's always a little bit of truth in everything you hear. And it seems like the crazier it is, the truer it seems to be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sometimes reality is stranger than fiction. Yep. Absolutely.
Let's see who we got with us real quick, and then we'll just get her rolling. It's going to be a good one, I can already tell. If we do have time at the end of the show, folks, we may take some calls, but I'm not sure yet. We'll see how it goes. All right, who we got? Miss Julianne Payne. How you doing? There's Miss Delaney. Big Al. Tony Cherie. What's going on? David Castle. Good to see you. Shauna D. Did I say that? I don't know if I didn't. I'll say it again. There's Miss Dark Truth. There's Edwin. Tree of Life. Keep on growing. Think agape love always and forever. Miss Jill Jarrett, good to see you. Crystal MacArthur, howdy. Who else we got? Scotty Boy, good to see you, buddy. I want to get him on here sometime too. Deborah Trudeau, always a pleasure. Brenda Rottendog, welcome. First time viewer, I think, or at least first time chatter. Jaway, Jawman, how you doing? All right, so. Sorry if you didn't make. There's Miss Mary Wins. I got to get her in because she is my PR department single-handedly. Now, I mean, I've got other people that share, but like she's always throwing the links. She's been there from the beginning as far as she's always posted links for my show. So thank you, Mary. And Mary, you said you sent me your shirt size and design. I never got it. So email that to me, please. All right. So anyway, first off, I want to talk about a couple things. I talked to Rick a little bit before the show came on, and synchronicities are just through the roof for me right now. And Rick said he's had quite a few, and I'm sure Kent has as well. you know, case in point, the other night when Brian and I did those cards, it was so funny because it was showing in the chat, like people would say, "Did you get me down for a reading?" And boom, every single time it was said, they were the next person in line. Like that right there just shows you the synchronicities that are coming in. So, you know, Rick said that he had been sharing some similar stories. What about yourself, Kent?
Well, I mean, there's always synchronicities around for sure. I mean, that's just huge part of my life. Some slide past and some I recognize, but I mean, you know, it's to understand that we're spiritual in this, like, you know, and everything around us is happening, you know, for a particular reason or a manifestation. So, I mean, being manifestors of what we do and understanding the power of that, yeah, we're going to draw synchronicities to ourselves. And also, whether we know it or not, like, we're telepathically connected. When we're within a same spiritual focus, we can actually hear and pick up on information that we're putting out to each other. It just kind of comes in. You don't think about it, but things just come in to you. So then when you see it happening with other people around, that kind of synchronicity, you know, kind of cues you into that that connectedness, that telepathic or even more than telepathy connectedness that we have.
Yeah, and real quick before I let Rick chime in, I'm glad you said that, because that was like, you know, my case in point. You know, this higher minds we're seeing, I think that's already starting to show the, you know, the results in that. And that's why I wanted to present that first before we do that telepathy training, because like you said, I think we're already telepathically communicating. So, and real quick, sorry, Rick, but I do want to send out some love to Ryan SK and his family. He lives right in the middle of Manhattan in New York, and he is a pharmacist, so he did have to, I'm sure, get a COVID test, but he did get it, and he's finally recovering. He is, but I think his dad is in the hospital on a respirator, and his mom's not doing well either. So just send them some love. I want to get that out real quick. So go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry. Just had a couple of announcements.
Well, since this is my first time, and the people that are tuning in tonight, hello to everybody. I have to give you some little bit of, you know, foundational background so you understand what my perspective
Absolutely.
of
Yeah.
space.
And also, I'd like to know when your journey kind of started, how your awakening began, so to say.
That's what I needed to work to. I just start briefly that I was put through Christian schools. There's a lot of stories I could tell about that, but to work up all my way up to, say, like right after, let's see, 2001, right through there. And I was always questioning things anyway, but I had held that faith and belief system up until that time, until the internet went high speed. And now I could start researching everything. And I did. And what I found, I was looking for more affirmation, and I found the opposite. Well, I found the affirmation that I was seeking intuitively, but not what I was wanting to find, as far as like, yeah, to fit in with society and with everybody else, because how many people go that far and to research their own accepted traditions or belief systems or holidays? Not many, and the ones who do get scorned. But anyway, after that, I got into meditation, and I finally got something, and I would call it, and many other people would call this, a block of information. And it took me a while to understand it, and not really understand what the words meant, but what it meant on many different levels. And it's the thing that I got, and it was just mentally. It wasn't an audio. You know, you couldn't hear it. Yeah. It said, we are all part of a part, but we're not a part. Meaning we're all together, but we're all a part of something. Does that make sense? We're all fractals of source. Fractal completion of something still defining itself. Yep. And that's the whole point of having the consciousness, is the creation itself is still growing and discovering and defining what it actually is.
No, that's well said. We've argued many times on here. We're all individual pieces of source, and we're here to have that experience for source.
Yes.
Something brewing down there.
It's a pathway. It is the way. It's not the way that, you know, like when we learn, say, I use a lot of musical metaphors. We learn scales and chords, but we don't keep on sitting there playing the scales and chords. We move on to write our own songs,
Right.
and or whatever it may be. Melody doesn't have to be a whole song, but you know, you don't read a book and then just keep on rereading it, and or you know, it's supposed to be a pathway to some higher. Okay, I get it. You know, now what do I do with it? And now move on to something that's maybe a different flavor. And that's what I did when I discovered Taoism and some other things like that. I was like, wow, I like it, you know, so.
You see, you know, what originally brought me in was the whole Planet X thing. But, you know, I did sort of like you. I kind of, you know, I grew up a Christian all my life, but I always knew like I couldn't understand just because somebody didn't grow up around Christians and stuff, how they could go to hell. Like that just never made sense to me. So that made me want to go out and research all these different religions, especially the older ones, because I knew along the way they had been tampered with. So I wanted to go back as far back in time as I could to try to get at least the most authentic information I could.
Yeah.
Makes
Well, I
sense.
think that's where we find the unity. Yes, Kent, is getting through those things and finding the true esoteric knowledge that's woven within it. And, you know, it's like when you squeeze out a sponge, you squeeze out the stuff that you clean up, but you don't throw away the, you know, you don't throw away the sponge. And that's how it is with some of this information. You keep what's good and you throw away what doesn't work for you. And it may work for somebody else, but we need that.
Yep.
We need different points of view.
Absolutely. Ken, I've seen something brewing down there for a minute. Go ahead.
No, no, I was listening. No, I was really actually intrigued by what Rick was going to say with his, you know, journey that brought him here. I mean, obviously myself, I've had supernatural since I was a kid, you know, like, you know, to the point where I barely even talk to people about it. So I was always aware of that. And then, yeah, I remember the days of, you know, being by myself, searching and searching, you know, especially when the internet came out and stuff like that. But then getting to speaking on YouTube for me was almost like a backtracking thing, trying to make sense of what had occurred in my life and my experiences and stuff like that, because, you know, all of these things from biblical terms and other terms were happening to me on a daily basis, you know, where I was dealing with obviously dealing with entities, and then it went from there. And you know, I had a you know, a death experience, out of body experience, back into this experience, had to regain the use of this body, which people wouldn't even understand. It's almost too hard to even explain. Like the body didn't work properly when I came back in, so it was like I was a child or something like that, and I had to regain it. But I gained many spiritual abilities at that time when I came back in, so I was doing healings, and pretty much I was just walking a journey. It didn't matter where I went, what I did. I was constantly given somebody in front of me to heal. They had just lost a parent, they had lost this, they had, you know, just the healing animals in my hands. Like, and then I came back to find an avenue, maybe I was just led back to an avenue to try to talk and explain and find like-minded, because I had, you know, a year or two of my life where it was very difficult, because it wasn't difficult, it was quite exciting. However, I didn't relate to any people at all, so I just had to pretend to, almost. So, and now it's an easier journey to do through that. But yeah, it guides us to who and where we're at right now. And you know, really what it comes down to is we all have those abilities, and we're all spiritual in that aspect, and we're refinding our other essences. Like, you know, I'm not religious, but, you know, I'll describe it as kind of the body or the other aspects of maybe the Christ consciousness. But, you know, I'm very leery in this world of this Archon world of utilizing any exact descriptions. You have to more or less know the meaning of what you're talking about than the word, you know what I mean? So yes, because it's so twisted, it's so upside down, and a lot of the darkness here utilizes the same principles and the same words and stuff like that to basically flip it upside down. So I don't know, sorry, I'm just rambling off, but that's kind of
No, it's fine. Rick, I'm real curious though. So about when did the awakening really kick into gear for you? What year?
About two, I mean, when I got that block of information, it was, I believe it was 2009,
Okay.
when it really blew my mind out, because I was still clinging to the other, whatever, that, you know, the peer pressure, the societal belief system that was put in me. And one thing that I do want to say is that, for whatever reason, I seem to have bonded with more Christians who, you know, they don't want to be down on Christianity, but we're still like carrying the torch, so to speak, as far as like carrying that, the goodness that the Essenes knowledge, I think, is woven in there. And, you know, from the Essenes, the messianic message, but it's been so distorted. And those things are so hard to understand, that you really would have to study them. That was a study that took like years, and even some people dedicated their whole lives to hermetics and things of that nature. We're playing with baby food here with some of these other broken down religions. They're not giving us the real meat.
Well, that's why we're trying to bring back the real meat in the subject. You know, it's been all watered down, and that's why we're trying to bring back, you know, the original teachings. I mean, because, you know, I've said it time after time after time. Jesus' original teachings said that we could do what he did and more.
Yes,
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
absolutely. And
time to step into our power.
I think a big part of stepping into our power that, you know, has come to me just in the last, you know, is we're able to work in the spiritual. We are able to think and thus manifest. We are able to call upon our higher selves and our higher aspects of source to heal and help. You see, this plane, this matrix that we're within, everything is designed for you to give that to others, whether it be an athlete or a priest or a, you know, it doesn't really matter. It's whatever avenue your life path has taken you. These beings are placed there, you know, obviously it's within the school systems and everywhere to take away your power. You see, that's where things have got so twisted, because what's being taught is twisted to being untrue. If we just allowed all babies, all being, all spirits to follow their natural paths of creation, we would be following the path. We've been usurped. That's what I would call these archons, you know, the usurpers. So, you know, when Rick, like the other day, when you're going off on these governors, and I'm with you, I would like to go, and many people like that.
Rick's got cojones.
I would say that they are weak in a spiritual aspect. They believe that satanic principles and these things can give them power, but you see, it's power within a false construct. There is no true power from taking from others. There's only power, and there's only, the natural is to grow and create and help others grow and create without damaging. And this is the problem. It's just a usurped principle here, where it's about taking without caring, you know, kind of the narcissistic approach. But, you know, we are eternal beings, so we need to hold ourselves, not get too carried away with these evil that's going on, and just follow our paths and be the leaders, just like what you said in your video last night. Very inspiring, actually. Somebody, if you haven't listened to Rick's one video he put out for about 10 minutes last night on Facebook, it's very, very good, and it's very knowledgeable. So yeah, anyhow, I mean, it is walking the path. It's being the leaders, even in the face of what seems like unsurmountable odds. They're only unsurmountable because we're not manifesting them to be different than that. So, and we're just, we're trying, we are trying to manifest these. But I think where we're all getting stumbled up sometimes is not even believing in our own manifestation powers or our manifestation abilities. And it would be really nice if we could just get back to that and just let the nonsense flow past ourselves, I guess.
Yep. You know, this is kind of a little bit off, but you know, usually when I have somebody on the first time, that's why I was asking you about your awakening in the beginning. And I know most of the people in this community actually had a rock bottom moment. That's kind of what sparked my awakening. Did you have any kind of instance like that in your life, Rick?
Yeah, I did one time.
You ever had a near-death experience?
Oh, near-death experience?
That seems to be common as well. I mean,
There was
if
a
not,
time
it's all
that
good.
I
I was
thought
just
I
curious.
was dying. There was a time that I thought I was dying, but it wasn't actually near death. It was more of a trip, I think. And I don't know if people are ready from this, but I took a whole bunch of LSD back when I was like,
I do. I
I
talk about it
was.
all the time.
But yeah, I saw like past life regression and stuff, and some, you know, some things, and that sort of, you know, I actually was taken back into 2 past lives where I had died similarly. Oddly enough, one shore was in Europe, I believe it was Normandy, and then another shore was like down by Chesapeake Bay somewhere. And why that would come out in such a way, but I would thought I was already dead and like going, but then I snapped out of it. But I never had that happen on anything after that or before it or anything, and nor would I want to. But it was that was a near-death experience for me. You know, how many times did you think you're about to die because you're heading for the guardrail? I don't know, many, man.
Oh, I mean, I can't even keep a number on that one.
What happened to you that you thought you were actually hitting the fan there? I know I heard Kent's story, but
Me?
yes.
Oh, well, one time I got a blood infection and turned septic. And then the other time I actually had a heart attack and went out on the table.
Ooh.
Yeah. But
So
you
that
know,
would do it.
people talk about seeing a light and all that. I didn't see none of that. I just remember them cutting my clothes off. And when I really freaked out, though, this is weird, is when I saw this preacher come start praying over me. And that's when I freaked out. I was calm before that. I was like, well, yep, this is happening. And then I see that preacher start praying, and it freaked me out. And then I was out.
No, what would have been really freaky is if you started singing "I Saw the Light." That would have jump started your heart. And he would have been seeing the dark real quick, huh? No, I'm kidding, bro.
Sure, I
All
mean,
this stuff, I've been learning how to find humor in it because a lot of it's pretty horrific and mortific, but we aren't that. You know, we're just identifying it. We're not that.
yep.
But
No,
that's
I mean,
wild.
you gotta find the humor in it. Otherwise we'd be basket cases.
Very
But
true.
there was one little thing before I lose my train of thought was with the in reflection, the response to what Kent was saying before. If we're biological computers and you keep on putting images within that computer and we actually, if you're aware of it or not, we are creative. We are manifesting little beings everywhere.
Yep.
And if you get enough of those beings to be thinking, well, that's what, you know, that's cool watching the movie and everything, that's cool, but they don't realize that they're actually becoming projectors into the reality that is going to unfold. And that's a lot of people feel the same way. And I think that's what's happening. And we need to take control of the narrative, so to speak. You know,
Would you classify that as a non-player character?
I guess so. I guess you would, because I don't want to isolate anybody, but I'm sure that those who get this feeling, you're not going to say you don't get it, and that there's only so many of us that are here that are aware that we're here, and the rest of them aren't. If that makes any sense, they don't know what's really going on. They're not geared for it. They're just not. Something
I was going to get into tonight, but I'm actually going to save it for another day. Is I don't know if Kent's heard of this. So I talked to Rick a little bit beforehand, and I just want to know if anybody out there has heard anything of this. But Marsha Price had sent me something today, and it was about the Enochian and the Ethiopian calendar. And according to those two calendars, it would be 2012.
You know, I saw
We were talking earlier, like, remember all the hoopla on 2012, this is the end of the world. Now imagine that scenario and you throw in a pandemic on top of it.
I'm really confused about the dates because there's even in the older photographs, the oldest photographs we could find, and some of the literature, they used to use a small I to represent Issa, which was after the death of Issa, which was another name for Jesus Christ. A lot of people used Issa to address that prophet. So they were calling like 800 after Issa, they were calling it 800. So there's all kinds of confusions. I don't know what the right one is, but that's fascinating. But there's another aspect to the calendar.
I'll just read you this short text that she sent me. It says, Carlos Barrios, an indigenous Mayan tradition keeper, says that the Mayan day keepers view the December 21st, 2012 date as a rebirth, the start of the world of the fifth sun. He says it will be the start of a new era resulting from and signified by the solar meridian crossing the galactic equator and the Earth aligning itself with the center of the galaxy. At sunrise on December 21st, 2012, for the first time in 26,000 years, the sun rises to conjunct with the intersection of the Milky Way and the plane of the ecliptic. The cosmic cross is considered to be an embodiment of the sacred tree, the tree of life, a tree remembered all in the world's spiritual tradition. Some observers say this alignment with the heart of the galaxy in 2012 will open a channel for cosmic energy to flow through the earth, which I think is what we're seeing, cleansing it, and it dwells upon it, raising all to a higher level of vibration. Various astronomical alignments and numerological formula were proposed for this date. A New Age interpretation held that the date marked the start of the period during which the earth and its inhabitants would undergo a positive physical or spiritual transformation, and December 21st would mark the beginning of a new era. Others suggested the date marked the end of a world or a similar catastrophe. The scenario suggested the end of the world included the arrival of the next solar maximum, but it's a solar minimum cycle, so I don't know. And then they bring in the Nibiru, which to me just means the crossing. But if you go look, they've got a thing where you can calculate it out. It's in the Enochian and Ethiopian calendars, it would be 2012. And like I said, I don't think it's the end of the world. I mean, I think it is a new era of enlightenment. I'm not saying they're not going to fight like hell to keep it from happening, though.
yes. Obviously,
Well, being that the theme, go ahead, Kent.
No, go ahead, Rick.
Being that the theme of this would be find our commonalities, as I was listening, that's what I was doing. And I would agree with the cosmic energy shifting right now, or there being some kind of whatever it is. I don't understand that completely, but I definitely feel differently. And it would make perfect sense for them to have this mad rush to send all this microwave radiation out the way that they are, with just this mass rush of deployment. So it's probably more than just trying to make people sick or whatever else in communications. It might have a lot to do with that. There may be a cleansing energy that's coming here that's sort of like EMP the shit out of this place and reset it. And they don't want that. They want it to stay the, plantation slave paradigm. Go ahead, Ken.
No, what you just said, it hit that's exactly why they're in a rush right now for this. There is something happening on definitely on a universal, a solar, actually a multi-dimensional scale right now. I mean, the guides I've worked with and are talking with that are working here in the spiritual have, there's actually been a battle going on for quite some time. I think that the coming down through the dimensions, it's entering this dimension right now, and they are scrambling. I mean, they definitely want the people in the houses, they want the people within the cities, and to use this microwave technology, and it is definitely to keep us from something that is coming in, which I think would be a knowledge energy wave or something along those aspects, or a return to a lot of our spiritual power. And You know, everything that happens here is not done on a material aspect. It is done on a spiritual aspect. Like even the nanobots, the technologies, the foods, everything is to keep us from expanding into our spiritual powers. Because if we did, they're done. Because I've done it at different times where I've been outside and in my spiritual powers, and these archons are literally, they have no power over us at that point in time. So we're definitely being kept within this. And I think, I don't know if I said this to you guys before or after the show, I can't remember. But I said when I had a realization today, a revelation, a download, a spiritual information come to me that, okay, if we're just talking about the coronavirus, the virus isn't real. The virus is the hoax. But the injections from the virus is real. They have these whatever they've got in the corona testing, as well as the vaccine, as well as the what they give you in the hospital in those IV bags, you know, because this is what's complicating the matter for these different people. Now, that's just one aspect, but it's important because it's what we're dealing with right now. I emphatically tell everybody listening here, don't inject yourself with anything. Don't inject yourself with anything. Do not go to the mainstream public. I don't care that you think they're doctors and they don't understand the spiritual aspects of things. They could inadvertently do it to you. They're not all intentionally doing it to you. They're very, very confused at this point in time, as they are most points in time. But don't do that aspect. But you are right. Okay, so we're being herded into the houses. Like we always, as the leaders, because the mass population right now refuses to use common sense of any sort. There's no common sense out there. So there always is a reason that the mainstream is guiding us in certain aspects, in certain ways. They definitely want us out of nature. I mean, that one goes without. They want us within these constructs, next to the smart meters, next to their grid pattern they're putting up, and they want us injected with different things. I mean, we have to recognize that we're in a battle. I mean, first and foremost, we are in a battle, whether we want to be or not. We are within a battle, and it's very important for ourselves right now to guide our own spirits through this battle. You will experience times right now where family, friends, and others are going to make poor choices. They will try to guide you as well into these poor choices, but you have to be able to let those poor choices go and make your own choices. So sorry, I'm going off on this. It's just because it's a little bit important, because it came to me today that I was meant to bring that information out. But absolutely, what is going on in the solar, in the spiritual? What is coming through right now? Because I've heard that we're doing very well in the interdimensional battle, if you wanted to call it
that's
that.
what I was trying to say. That's why I think you can maybe look at some of the signs and see that we are winning. Look at how the earth is cleaning up. The Sea of Galilee is back to its original sea level for the first time in hundreds of years. I mean, and the skies are clear, the Venice canals are clear, the world is clearing up. So look at that, look at things like that, and maybe that's signs that we are winning.
Absolutely. Well, and the psychotic leaders and all those, they're not going to go arrest each other. So there is a force coming upon right now that they truly don't want us to come into our power. Because you see, in your spiritual power, you can, okay, what's the biblical code? You know, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We're fighting against a spiritual force. So when we come to the realization that you need to take this up on a spiritual level, that's what they don't want you to know. So because it's on that level that they're afraid of you knowing this. Even speaking of this, I can feel the energy coming at me through this box of whatever technology it is that we're speaking through. So just come in, you know, it doesn't even matter if we're spread out. It doesn't matter if we're separated. we can act in the spiritual, and we can help to bring about this positive change. You're right. The oceans are cleaning up. Things are cleaning up. There's less pollution, and
There's
it's
no,
happening quite fast.
it's no mistake. This is called the crown virus. That's not a mistake. That's not a
Yeah.
coincidence.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
If we could turn that mainstream TV off and just stop with all that nonsense, because that's just all programming, and just think for ourselves again. Even the main, anybody that can come to that realization to think for yourself again. And yeah, it's quite easy to see at that point in time, but we're all aspects of it, so we all don't have the exact answer. We're working together to discover what we need to do, and
and look at the creativity it's bringing out in people. Like, that's the only thing that's kept me on Facebook, because I was getting ready to quit Facebook this week. I just had enough. And then I started seeing, like, these musicians and all these people, dancing, and like, I'm seeing the best come out in people really more than I'm seeing the worst.
Yep. Yeah. When those borders open again, we'll be down there. I'm going to do some. I got to do some singing with you, Rick. We'll make some music, but we can't ever make money. Yeah, we can donate it to some animals or something like that. That's what we.
It's funny you said that, because we was talking about the telepathy training, and I appreciate it. I got a couple of emails. People were like, "Oh, you should do Patreon and do the telepathy training on there." And like, I'm one of those, like, I think this is information that people need to have, and I'm not going to charge for it. I think that's just ridiculous. So I'm not a Patreon fan, people. So, but I do appreciate you looking out for me. As long as I can keep this thing rolling, that's all I care about. I don't care about making money, because it ain't going to be worth nothing anyway.
Through that.
That's how Reiki people operate. They don't have a fee. That's a donation-based thing.
Yeah.
For the most part.
It's an energy exchange. That's enough for me. I get so much love from my community. That's all the money I ever need. It's my family.
Oh.
I see a lot of healing's been being accomplished through, what is it called, biomagnetics? I guess Jamie Lee, and there's another. I know he's like a co-pilot in this thing, because he didn't discover it, but he saw that what it was doing with people. There was other, but that's interesting too, with the Reiki biometrics, and just
what exactly is
that's the bad thing. Biomagnetics.
What is biomagnetics? I don't know.
I don't know either. Ionizing the body somehow with magnets.
Okay, yeah, no, there is a lot of work with magnets. Yeah, I can see that working though. I mean, we're electromagnetic, beings anyway.
That's why don't people get this when they see antennas going up everywhere? I'll just call them antennas, because I don't want to,
we know what you're talking about.
What do you, they're not sending out, things different. They're going to affect us. All those things affect us. And if you stand underneath a high, they call them high tension power wires or high voltage line, you could feel it. I mean, even if it's like if it's misty out or something, you could hear that sucker buzzing, man. It goes zzz.
Oh yeah.
I get ill around that shit. I don't like it.
No, you're absolutely right. I definitely don't think that they're in our benefit. That's for sure. But the other thing is that we still can't allow them to bring fear to ourselves, because we are to overcome everything at this moment in time. This is the time, you mentioned it earlier, like with the thing where we can do more than, and whether we Isa or the different prophets, we are the different prophets. I've mentioned this before. That's a different timeline. That's a different place. We're doing we're doing the same work that we're doing right here in this timeline. This is multi timeline, and and that's why, because we are the children of Source. If you wanted to call it, Jesus the Son of God, I mean, we're the children of Source. I mean, it's not like favoritism. It's not like Rick sucks, I like Kent, he's a better son. No, it's not like that. Where it's just you know, that whole isolating it down into one aspect is a little bit of a distraction. I think if you were to look at the true principles of Christ, if you were to look at the true principles of Jesus, we weren't supposed to focus upon one man. That this is not the focus of what it is. This is what the focus has become.
Well, like I said, that's what I said the other night. Religion, that when man took it over, they made us want to look outwards to try to find what we need, when the whole time it's been within.
Yes, absolutely. Because you can't find your power and you can't find who you are if you're looking outwards. You know, it's okay to look outwards sometimes too. I mean, we're creative beings. We're extensions of source. We're all of these things. So, I mean, absolutely, there's things to learn everywhere. However, when you completely lose touch and focus, and you have an insertion or a usurper, as we have right now, trying to basically block us from that connection, then that creates a problem, and it just has to be fixed, and it is being fixed, you know. And I think that's what the energy is coming in. Like, I felt a lot of energy like lately. I don't know if they're what you would call the 5G, but these feel beyond the 5G. This feels like natural energy, like a lot of it actually pouring in.
You know, it's to put it in layman's terms, it's almost like this. You know, if we live in a holographic universe and it's a program, and, you know, I'm always saying every single thought matters. So imagine a computer that is trying to work itself through a scenario, you know, sort of like the military does when they run these simulations. So each time we're living these lives, we're running these simulations, every single thought matters. So eventually, if we can align all those thoughts and stuff, boom, we've got our simulation scenario that we win.
Yes.
Well, especially if you want to adhere to what we're left to work with here, and they're only scraps of the Judeo-Christian precepts, to allude back to what Kent was saying before, we're supposed to be able to do everything that Jesus did and beyond. It wasn't, he told us that. It wasn't like, you know, this, you follow me around and do that. No, you follow what I'm trying to show you, I think, was the message, the allegorical message in that. But if you go farther into that, there's so many other spiritual sciences that's interwoven into that. And there is some pretty deep things in there that, you know, this is not the show to go into it. Bro Sanchez broke down a lot of the methodology and the way things are written and everything. And, you know, that's not one of those studies here. But
hey, wherever you're led, you go, man. Just go with the flow.
Well, anything like we know that we need a feminine and a masculine to create an offspring. And I think they took that precept, and well, this was his idea. I mean, I'm only reiterating what Bro Sanchez had said because it aligned with, I feel in tune with it, is that they took the precept of the masculine and the feminine and the offspring, which would be the trinity of human life, and they distorted it into something that has lost the feminine. And you know, you took the kid and you nailed him on a cross and killed him, and it's got to be this big story, you know. And you really, that's a long stretch for a pure, like for a child. Or even if you didn't get all this programming from like 4 years old and somebody hit you at 20 with this stuff, you'd be like, all right, dude, like, well, you really need to get some help, right? I mean, you would look at it that way because it sounds that weird, you know, to think of something with no mother. All right. You know, and that's in and of itself, I've always found that not only confusing, but upsetting. And how long does it take to relearn everything? I guess
I think that's what we live each lifetime for.
We don't have time for all that.
Like I said, I think that's what we live each lifetime for.
Well, I'm not in this time, and like we find ourselves, like to find hopeful words and optimism and everything. And for me, I don't feel disdain or any kind of hatred towards those, you know, whatever you want to call them. The NCO is, well, I forget what you called it, the player, the NCP or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, the player in the game that's not holding the controller, just a cog in the frame. What do you call it?
NPC, a non-player character.
Right, right. And I believe that it's probably pretty similar on other levels. It's the same. I do agree with that, because there's people that you could tell them things straightforward. 1 + 1 is 2, and they'll still say 3, and you're crazy. And that's like, oh, I'm in the wrong place. There's something wrong here.
Well,
But it's not me or you. It's them.
right.
So,
That's why
anyway,
really
there's
through this whole thing, I've tried to remain and keep the same message. Like, whether all this is real, hoax, any of this crap they're throwing at us, it's going to affect us somewhat in our reality. But really, the only thing that truly matters right now is our spirituality. All that is just noise. To me, I mean,
exactly. Well, how disconnected do we get? And like, even if you talk along these lines, go out in the woods and go, take your shoes off and put your feet in the or dirt, touch and find some. Boy, if you can find some granite with some quartz in it, you're gonna feel something. I mean,
oh yeah, you
Yeah.
can feel the pulse of the earth.
exactly. It'll charge right through you. You could feel it. That's better than anything to me.
Have you ever had one of those connection experiences with the earth? Like, for instance, I'll tell you a quick scenario that I had. I was sitting on my front porch one day, and it was really hot in August, and I started to meditate. And all of a sudden, when I was meditating, like I said, the wind was blowing, it was hot and everything. All of a sudden, and there was all kinds of crickets and frogs and stuff you hear in the background. All of a sudden, the wind quit blowing, and it just totally went silent, dude. And I just started crying. And then, it was like I had that moment, and then everything came back. The wind started blowing again and all that. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Oh, certainly. I've had many experiences like that. Yes, I
Yes.
definitely know what you mean. Like, what happened there? Like, it's just like the earth just say hello in a way.
And it's when I was out grounding, like you said, and meditating. I had my shoes off, feet in the dirt. So get out there, folks. That's how you connect.
Yeah, and I've had lots of those experiences too. And actually, just as you're talking there, I was thinking to myself, like, I want more of those experiences right now. And if there's something that we can learn through all the chaos that's going on right now on stuff like that, it is our purpose. It is our journey. Again, where are we right now? Where have we gotten off of our journey? Where's our way back? If you're directly on it, that's great too. But I mean, for myself, I can see many aspects, even, having this conversation in this show, thinking about, yeah, I should be there. I should be grounding with nature again. I was driving, through the mountains today and looking at the waterfalls, and I took a lot of pictures. I was actually going to send them to you, Brian, but I forgot to because I wanted to put them on the show, because I got some really beautiful stuff. And my point was, from all of this chaos and this, happening, I looked at nature just peacefully running, and the beauty of the green and these beautiful waterfalls coming down the sides of the mountain. And then just a black bird comes down and sits like on the side of the road. And then I saw over there a little squirrel, and he was kind of like popped up and he ran down as I was driving. And I'm just like, nature don't care about no coronavirus or no this or no, whatever, like, I'm like, that's it. It will just flow past. It's so distracting. And, we have to utilize this artificial intelligence for our journey. Use it to find your journey, but we use it too much. And that's the thing. We become entrapped even within it away, because just the moments that we do have in this incarnation and all incarnations, I'm telling you, if you just even go out, and I know it sounds cheesy and stuff like that, but if you pay attention to nature around you, it's all interacting with you all the time.
Yep.
And, instead of showing it from some programming harshness or something like that, smile. I got out of my car today and I talked to this one black dude who was on the side of the road. I was like, hey, dude, what's going on? I didn't have to be weird. I was just like, hey, what's going on, buddy? And he hopped away from me a few times. Then he turned around, looked at me like I was crazy for a second, but then he kind of looked back at me like, hey, that guy's different than some of the other people out there or something. Just a little bit of interaction. Why do we always have to think we aren't interacting with everything? Realize that you're interacting with everything a little bit more. You'll bring a lot more peace to your journey. That's for sure.
That's the thing about slowing down and actually appreciating the smaller things. And, I guess when I was younger and all materialistic and all that, didn't really understand it and then when you start appreciating the small things, like you said, like we were saying, those small moments with connecting with the earth or, a child's laughter, whatever it may be, that's the things that truly hit home.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
No, I've actually had quite a great day, to be honest with you. In the midst of all this chaos, I've had quite a great day. And now I'm at my parents' place right now. I've enjoyed a great day with my parents. So I had a drive through the mountains and, some animals and some this. I have had no fear whatsoever about anything that's going on. And because I had all of those, I was able to have like a clear message come to me about, what's going on. I mean, I'm very aware that we're within the battle, but, every warrior needs a moment to ground and take peace too, so, and we all are in our own way. We're all healers. We're all warriors. We're all gods. We're all pieces of God. This is our incarnation connection to that. And when you realize you're internal, you're eternal, and you're experiencing different battles. And don't get me wrong, I've been incarnating into a dark one a few times, and that's why when you saw that thing, like Rick, when you were talking about being on the beach, I mean, I've had a few of those experiences where I've past life and stuff like that. I know too. I was killed in World War II. I actually remember the experience, but it's like, and that's just one. And that's it's relevant, but it's not relevant. You know what should be relevant from this is just the understanding that maybe this process that we're fighting against has been going on for a little bit longer in this this plane, this timeline, or something like that. And we do have to come to a realization that we have to step up and stop it. You see, because if we don't step into our power, then or ourselves and be the leaders, then it does cyclically repeat itself and stuff like that. And that's kind of the process. I think we're almost caught in a cycle. And hey, maybe what's happening right now with this whole thing, why they want us all in, if you were talking about it in a good aspect, is maybe there's an opening out of that cycle right now. And instead of being aware of it and seeking it yourself, we're distracted within this chaos. You got to calm the chaos if you want to see the answer. It's like, even if you're in battle, you have to calm the chaos. If you have that's where you're grounded, that's where you're at. If you're within the chaos, it's very hard to act in any way.
That's something I was going to say. One thing that that I'm really working on myself right now is having compassion for others. Like sometimes I can be impatient. That's the way I am, and that's something I'm working on, because not only all this crap coming at us, but the Schumann resonance is affecting people and all those things. But I'm trying to learn to have compassion for others that just don't understand, like Rick was saying with the NPCs and things like that. So that's something I'm working on. Maybe that can help somebody out there too that maybe needs to work on that. Rick, we only got a few, so I'd like to get some more info out of you before we part ways here a little bit. Like I said, definitely at the end, I want you to tell people how they can find you and stuff, because you're getting a lot of good feedback in chat, and I knew you would. Like I said, and one of these days I'm going to have, I guess I'll have to have you and Kent back on here one day and let y'all talk about the concave and flat earth and all that, and I'll just sit back and listen.
Absolutely.
So, but that's something, I've seen Ken and I've seen Rick post both of those things, and I'll look at it, and there's a lot of good points there, but I guess I just still live in the globe reality as for now. But I would like to hear both y'all's thoughts on that. So anyway, Mr. Rick.
Yeah, as far as like to try to keep the train of thought going here, chug along, the spirituality, everything comes to a pressing point where it needs to be, you know, honed out. It needs to be pressed. You don't get great. You need to press the grapes to get the wine. Things, and it even needs to be cured after that. It's not something that just happens, and it's a just about everything is like that. And I know that's a weird metaphor, but just as we are with spiritual beings, it's most likely that this is just another pressing point to allow the ones that sort of made it far enough on their series of journeys to pass on to another series of journeys, whereas a whole bunch of others, they're not going to pass on to that other series, and they're going to get caught up in another reality, so to speak. And that's what I'm seeing. Could we change any of those people's plights in life? I don't think so. I think that's predetermined.
Yeah.
And that would even align with the Judeo-Christian, actually more of the Christian, that everything is predetermined as far as, like, you know, who's meant to go where, you know,
Right.
this time around.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think every single thought matters. And you said something that brought up a question I was wanting to ask you earlier. Have you ever had any cases with, I'm sure, deja vu, but also the Mandela effect?
Uh, did I notice it? Well, yeah, but I didn't really take it as a Mandela effect. I mean, when I saw people just change the name of the Berenstain book to another spelling, I'm like, I don't know, maybe they don't like the name of it or something, because
Well,
it
that's
looked
what I
like
said. A lot of it is
it's,
branding, I believe. But there is cases like in movies and stuff, like, you know, certain quotes and things that have definitely changed. I mean, I went back and watched it, and it's, you know, quotes that I said all my life and things. So that's just weird. But reason I was asking is because I'm wondering if that is not also another scenario where we're actually witnessing this merging back and forth between dimensions.
well, if again, if I'll refer to the tipping point of manifestation, whatever enough people see does become the reality, and they forget about what was the past. They'd forget about that it was the Berenstain Bears, right? It's not the
Yep.
Berenstain Bears.
Yep.
Maybe they don't like the word Steen. It looked like Stein or like Frankenstein, or it was an ethnic slur. I don't know,
Right.
because anything could be. But I don't think you've seen that in many different ways. But I think that's how it changes, because nobody notices really. Like, enough people just accept it as being the reality, and no one really questions it. Like, yo,
That's
that
what, okay.
changed
Now,
over
see,
there.
that does make sense because enough people maybe remember it this way, and that's what makes it reality. That's why I was saying there's strength in numbers as far as when we want to manifest. And that's why I want to do this telepathy training. And I've been trying to get people to partner up because, man, if you partner up somebody to manifest something, things start happening quick. And then if you get 2, 3, 4, 5 people involved, 10, man, you're changing it. You're
Well,
changing.
didn't Dr. Stephen Greer, they get together in that MUFON organization. They go out in the desert in Arizona and other places called, I'm not quite sure the locations, but they'll get together and they'll do things. They'll do a group thing and do a group intent together, and they actually see, you know, there's lights flying around. They come up to them and everything. So, and
Yeah,
don't
I've seen
know, are they
something also
creating
that
it?
there's an old Indian chief out there that does it. He does chantings to the skies, and every time he does it, UFOs show up.
Yeah, so maybe that's just removing the veil, because you have enough. Do you have enough things there to allow it to manifest? Because there's enough there. There's enough energy there. It's a theory, but it appears to be true, because, you know, why would you be doing this with the law of attraction and everything? It actually does work, but you got to watch what you're trying to attract.
Well, you know, I didn't say this earlier, but
That's
the
true.
way it originally came out to me in thought, like I was talking about how the planet's cleaning up and all that. And what if it was a message from the aliens saying, look, y'all got to stop all this shit right now because you're at the tipping point?
Yeah.
It could, most of the things that we're going through on, you know, it could be several different things. You could say they're multifaceted, and that's hard for us to, you know, it's almost like playing, I would say, use music again. It's like playing 2 instruments at the same time. Now say, like, well, now you got to play 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. because that's what we're throwing at you, and that's all the different things. You know, there's so many different things happening, and they're working in concert on top of it. So it's hard to identify.
Well, Rick, I hope you enjoyed it here tonight, and I hope you'll come back with us sometime. Like I said, I do want you to tell people how they can find you, though. If you don't care to share, maybe, I know your Facebook page for sure, or, you know, your choice if you want to share email.
Well, obviously, you could find me at Richard Yorkin. That's on Facebook. And my email is, you could also email it, my first and last name which is RICHARD, and then Yurkin is YURKIN @gmail.com. Contact me anytime if you want to be friends on Facebook or look some of the things. I mean, I'm available. You know, we're all in this together. So.
And he definitely posts some interesting things, folks. So you'll definitely want to check him out. Kent, you want to say a real quick word, and I'm going to let Rick give us final thought, and we'll head out.
Oh, you know what? We've talked about a lot of things, and I'm actually just pleased to to join Rick tonight and stuff like that. And I'm just let him talk us out, because I mean I know Rick is a true warrior and a battler, and his heart is in the right place, and so is the rest of ours right here, and that's that's what's important. And before, I guess the one thing is that one thing that I maybe have to deal with just lately that is a little bit difficult, but I've said before, it will come back around when it does, is that I've had to kind of like separate myself a little bit from people that I care about and stuff, just because I can't let the nonsense of the chaos hit me. So that like Rick said, people will learn on their own time and stuff like that. You just can't seem to you can't force it into somebody. They have to understand things on their own, or else that's the way it works.
Absolutely. And Rick, you just got an excellent compliment in chat. Johan says you look like a monk sitting there, and you do kind of where your arms are like it. So that's a compliment. So give us final thought, Rick.
I'm going to return to the block of information that I got, because I only got 2 of them in my whole life so far. And we are all a part of a part, meaning that I may have leadership abilities. I may be able to lead, but so does Brian, so does Kent, and so do you. And we should all be able to take the lead and let the leader fall back and rest, and somebody else take the lead. It shouldn't be like, oh, you're the leader, you're showing us what to do. We should all be able to take that lead, to different degrees, but definitely, instead of this just like looking, and definitely we can do this. We can do this. We were made for that type of thing, to where, it's not all on one person. It's not all on you. It's on all of us together, because we are all a part of a part.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, brother, it's been a pleasure as always. And like I said, I hope you'll come back and join us. Folks, I'll be back. By the way, stick with us, Rick. Folks, I'll be back tomorrow night with Higher Minds Monday, and I will be back tomorrow night. I won't need a day of rest again. So tune in for that. I'm not sure what I got going on the rest of the week, but we'll strum up something. So until tomorrow, be the frequency you want to receive, folks. I love you all, and have a good night.